Hello, everyone. Welcome to the first episode of Inner Circle. I'm Ross Monaghan.
And I'm Soundari Mukherjea.
Thank you for joining us, everyone. This is a new series that Soundari and I have started. Basically, we've started the Inner Circle to start conversations. Both Sandari and I love having conversations, and one of the things that we wanted to do was to bring more people in. So we've brought in our inner circle of experts, including Bonnie Murphy, Jacinta Cubis, Dr. Jeff Russell, Associate Professor Toya Sinke, Genevieve Hilton, and Rimjin Ray will be joining us. But in the background, they'll be commenting to us privately. They may add some comments on LinkedIn as well. So we're really, really keen to get the conversation started because both Sundari and I firmly believe that conversations about AI shouldn't be just left to the tech industry, that those of us in the creative arts and professional communications and management should be involved in the conversation as well. Right, Sandari?
Absolutely, Ross. And I'm so glad we have our inner circle as well, looking at it and commenting on it. If you want to lead on to, why AI in communication specifically for our conversation. So one of the things is that obviously organizations are scrambling to, incorporate AI, and nobody knows how it's going to impact the future of work. At best, all of us are looking at some predictions.
Yeah.
Uh, so really looking at one way of looking at from a university point of view, 2023, 2024 are going to be great years to graduate, to take advantage of AI and do those amazing things. But AI as a co-pilot has always been there. It's not something new. Like it was called automation, it was called something else, whatever. It's been a co-pilot with us for decades. What we are hearing a lot more buzz on today is about generative AI. And one of the things that's always commented is that while some worry that AI will take their jobs, maybe someone, maybe someone who's an expert with AI will. So there are some big open questions about, what does disruption look like? What is an organization of the future? What skills are required? How is it going to impact productivity and so on? So Salesforce had, and we talked about this, it said that 67% of their senior IT leaders are looking to adopt AI in the next 18 months. At the same time, a majority of the senior IT leaders have said, we have concerns. 59% believe generative AI outputs are inaccurate, and 79% have security concerns.
Mm.
So organizations are really on the seesaw, right? Trying to find this balance part of it. And I love the idea what the BCG chief of ethics, Stephen Mills, said is about freedom within a framework. So
Yeah.
really looking at keeping that.
Yeah, well, look, in terms of education, I mean, it's been a really interesting year. Of course, some students are looking at AI to, let's say, short circuit some of the assignment process, but a lot of them are using it in really productive ways as well. I mean, brainstorming ideas, we've been doing that in class. And from my point of view as an academic, there have been uses for AI where I've actually asked AI to give me some suggestions on fun activities that can assist students with their learnings, and that's worked really well.
Mm-hmm. I totally see the value of using it as a co-pilot. But I do think that just because something can be automated doesn't mean it has to be. Uh,
Absolutely. I guess that
and
begs the question, though, what is it when we were talking about AI?
yeah, I think today we are looking at, and maybe we can really talk about some of the cases that we are seeing, examples that we are seeing around which are causing issues. So the human element around AI and the repercussions. We talked about AI will is testing. Levi's is testing AI generated clothing models to
Mm.
increase diversity. So the denim brand claims that it'll use tech to supplement human models rather
Yeah.
than completely replace them. And I don't know where that's going. So really looking at how some of these are coming up in terms of uses, in terms of biases that are playing out or could play out. Is it really diverse?
Mhm.
Asking these questions and getting everybody involved in the process. Again, it's not a tech tool alone. It is something that is going to affect everybody's life. So you don't need to be a techie to get involved.
Yeah.
As if you're a human, you are involved in this.
Yeah, absolutely. And that Levi's example was a great example. We had some conversations in my reputation management class at postgraduate level, and yeah, look, it's fair to say that there were mixed feelings about Levi using those AI generated models. But look, I think they admitted after there was a bit of a backlash that they hadn't really thought through the issues, and I think it's really important, isn't it, for us as leaders in this space to actually think about these issues and not jump to some using AI without putting in a lot of thought about the issues.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, that's why I think keeping human in the loop, as they say, or freedom within frameworks is something that's really coming up to and is being talked about. I know we have some questions for our audience as well, Ross. You want to bring up the first of those?
Yeah, so and we've been talking about AI and leadership, and our first question to everyone, including our inner circle today, is what does it take to become an AI leader? Do you need an understanding of the technical aspects? Do you need to know what a pre-trained transformer is? Is that important, or is just being human enough to be an AI leader?
Yeah, yeah. And I think it's a good segue to actually look at what is generative AI. Maybe we
Mm.
should go back to definitions in in that sense.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, so you spoke to somebody about this, right?
Yes, I spoke with Raghu, who is an AI researcher now, had a different past life, and maybe we could bring that conversation up.
Yeah, let's have a look at what Raghu said.
Hi, my name is Raghu Subramanian. Until before the pandemic, I was a corporate executive, and I was working for a company called Juniper Networks. We had a sales force of about 2,000 people, and I was running the technical half of that sales force. During the pandemic, my interest turned to AI, and I am now an AI researcher. I've gone back to my engineering roots from 3 decades ago. And that's what I do right now. I basically study how AI works and how it's different from how humans work. Now, today I was asked to say a few words about AI, and I'm going to focus specifically on generative AI. There were many instantiations of AI before that. So when I say AI in this talk, it simply means generative AI. What is it? Well, generative AI is a way of, at least when you live focused on language, not on images, it's a way of generating, it's called generative because it generates words and sentences according to the statistics of what is found on the internet. So it's basically gone through the internet and memorized various statistical patterns, and it just pulls words out of a hat, one after another in rapid succession, that have the facsimile of real English language because it follows the statistics of English language. It has no idea what it's saying. It could be, you could think of it as having 100,000 words or so in a jar, and it just pulls one word after another from the jar. I sometimes joke that it pulls it out of its ass, but it has no idea. It's simply pulling words one after another. So what it produces is actually beautifully flowing English. And the reason it does that, it has an uncanny ability to know. For instance, if you say, I am going to then it knows that the next word could be the park, the bathroom, the kitchen. It knows, and it knows the probabilities with which these next words could occur on the internet. And it actually generates things according to the exact same probabilities that you see on the internet. So it seems like very, very real language.
So in some ways, it's a bit like predictive text, just like on steroids, right?
Right. Totally, totally. And I think it's really interesting about the fact that how it's going to affect content creation, how people can use it and or rely on it. And we know that BuzzFeed recently laid off 12% of its workforce, saying that many companies are going to trust AI to write a better copy for less. So I think that begs the question on reliance on some of these. I remember there was also this non-profit which was called NIDA, which was working on eating disorder, and they replaced a 6-person helpline team and 20 volunteers with a chatbot called Tessa. A week later, NIDA had to disable Tessa because the chatbot was giving harmful advice that could make something worse. So what do you mean? What do you think about this kind of content creation reliance that we have on from the time, of course, that ChatGPT is really bust out?
Yeah. Well, look, one of the first things I think that people are jumping to is the jobs and whether people are going to have jobs in the future. And look, I think that begs a broader question of, what does it mean for us in the creative arts? I mean, I saw somebody on LinkedIn joking that humans will be left to the more mundane things like, cleaning toilets and sweeping the streets, and AI will be left to do the artwork, creating photos and interesting artworks, which I got me thinking. I also saw another post from a graphic artist, Jennifer Keith, and this really caught my eye. She developed this logo, Artists Against AI, which had me intrigued. And the post basically said she and a few of her colleagues were getting together to raise awareness of particular issues. So I reached out to Jennifer and asked her about her story, and let's have a little bit of a look at that. And I asked her firstly to talk about her background as a graphic artist and why she got into
For
it.
about 4 years, right about the time when we were transitioning to computers. Like when I started, I was ruling out boards, and then by the time I left, I was working on the computer. And my sister went to school for photography, and we just decided, like when we were in our 20s, let's just start a business. I started off doing mostly just graphic design, but as time's gone by, I've evolved and I do a lot more illustration now too, which is what I really love. It's time consuming. It's hard to make a lot of money off of it, but it's just so fun. Our clients have traditionally been like nonprofits, retail. I've done some packaging. How I got to the AI thing is my partner and I are fans of Duran Duran, from the 80s. You might remember them. They're still around. And they came out with a new album and they were bragging about it. This was about a year ago. They were bragging about it. And the album cover was done by AI. And I immediately just got pissed. And I'm like, these people are artists and they're not hiring artists. They're not paying it forward. Like, what the hell? So that's been on my radar ever since. And then just seeing things happening, and of course, all the AI on Facebook and the internet. And, it just was like a light bulb. We're all going to lose our professions. And it's not just me, it's all of us. I mean, I'm going to retire in a few years. So it's not really as much of an issue for me, but I am super worried about my adult children. I'm worried about my friends. I'm worried about humans in general. What I want to say is just think about it, because it might be me today, but it's going to be you tomorrow. Because, the visual stuff seems to be kind of the low-hanging fruit for AI. Like that's where they've started. That's the most public face of it, right? Mm-hmm. But as far as I can tell, they could potentially replace all of us.
And after that conversation, I had been using generative AI like Midjourney and a few other services to create images for some of my social media posts. After that conversation, I've stopped, and I just don't feel comfortable using those kind of services anymore. I'm not sure about you, Sandari, but also in the back of my mind is, well, what's the difference between that and using Canva? Because that's and other services that are taking work away from graphic artists. So, what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I'm seeing a lot of great comments on LinkedIn as well, and I know you're pulling a lot of this up and really looking at as an assistant. I don't know if Rimjim has joined us today, but Rimjim had written about for one of their products. They were trying to create a jingle, and for some reason, it was just not meshing. It was not coming out okay. So they went to ChatGPT, and it created something which was marginally better than their starting point, but then they worked on it to make it better and make it to what they want and all that. So really using, and I did see some of those comments, really using it as a tool rather than relying on it 100% and just churning out random stuff. I think it's a good point to also talk about. There was this challenge that was done in Post magazine, which of South China Morning Post, which is the newspaper and magazine in Hong Kong. In June 2023, they challenged two award-winning authors to take on ChatGPT at writing flash fiction, following the same rules and with the same conditions. And they really said, "Can you make out which is human and which is, auto-generated?" And I will admit that unless you knew the author's writing style, it was difficult to look at and guess correctly. And I was only going to guess. Like I said, let me just try this exercise. So I think that is something to think about what is the kind of content usage and even ownership. And I'm sure we'll talk a little bit more about the ownership aspect as well.
Yeah. In a private chat, Genevieve is talking about she's not concerned that AI generated content will be boring. It's designed to generate the most predictable thing, the least common denominator. And Genevieve raises a good point, doesn't it? Are we going to have this homogenized society where with just the lowest common denominator is what's considered art?
Yeah, yeah. And I think maybe it's an escape route for some people to use it as this. And tech allows content creators now to reproduce voices and styles,
Yeah.
but those renditions could cause copyright issues, of course. I mean, most recently, Beatles talked about releasing one of the last albums, but getting John Lennon's voice in using AI.
Yeah.
I'm not sure how I feel about that, and I'm sure our audience will have thoughts around that as well. There was a Singaporean pop singer, Stephanie Sun, who lamented that AI threads as fakes are making her viral. Actually, in China, in 2000, the last album that she created was 2017, but she is now super popular there. Her songs are getting hits, and this is AI generated version of her songs. So again, back to that question about how artists feel about this, what Jennifer Keith was talking about as well, right?
Yeah, but I mean, and look, I mean, some artists are confident that they're not going to be replaced, right? I noticed that Mickey Mouse's voice artist said that he doesn't think he or any other voice artists will be replaced by AI when talking or being used to voice characters like Mickey Mouse. And it's kind of got a point, I think, that humanness of it there. I mean, could AI ever recreate that? I know that there are lots of AI news anchors out there, but that's just reading a script, and I guess inflection in your voice and tone isn't all that important like it is in voicing something like Mickey Mouse, right?
Right, absolutely. The human behind the voice, the emotion that can come with that, I think is irreplaceable. always reminds me of Scott Hartley's book, The Fussy and the Techie. And it says that if machines are getting better, and they will, humans must become better versions of themselves. So being a techie is not the antidote for tomorrow's economy. Being more human is. So it's not a zero-sum game in some ways, but there's all that basic sense of humanity and empathy and soft skills, which as communicators, again, something that we all look at. And
Yeah, absolutely. Now, the International Telecommunications Union had a summit in Europe a few days ago, and some of you may have seen one of the press conferences there. Just a couple of quick clips from the ITU on this from this summit of AI for Good. There was one, I'll show a short clip about what they call social robotics.
Social robotics is about providing an interface for things like GPT, which is really a chat-based model, but having that in a way that's much easier to interact with. As humans, we're used to talking to other humans and communicating in that way. And something like a human face is a hugely high bandwidth communication channel. We can use that as a way to kind of interact with these models and harness the power they have in a much more intuitive way.
I'm not sure how I feel about this, but well, I wasn't at least until. Did you see the news conference that they held with the AI robots?
yes, and I think that's something that we can maybe build in later. In the meantime, do we want to bring up our second question for our audience and our inner circle as well, so people can mull over it and add on?
Let's do that.
Changes.
Yeah, what changes are you seeing in your industry thanks to AI? I know there's a lot of changes in the education sector and professional communication. A lot of people that I've been talking to, a lot of people in the agency sectors are using things like ChatGPT and other generative programs to write things like news releases and news stories. So I'm really keen to hear how people are using that.
Yeah. I think Jacinta has some comments on LinkedIn, and maybe while we are pulling those up, one of the things that I think definitely people are trying to use is trying to see that, oh, this is something that can generate a lot of content at scale without getting tired and worried and bothered. And we talked about that CEO who it works 24/7 kind of a thing. So a lot of the conversation is as a productivity tool, rather than as something which is clearing space for humans to do wider and better things. And I always looked at AI and organizational conversation as a exploration, as an experimentation. So the innovation side of AI, so really looking at it as a convergent point of various skills that could be used. So literally connecting the dots on that. So any thoughts around that, Ross?
Yeah, look, I think one of the things that jumps to my mind is, you how you can the different ways that you can use AI services, and again, I think getting back to our conversations, whilst I love AI, whilst I love technology in the future as a crisis and issues manager as well, I think thinking about the future is really important, thinking about these different ways of using these things. But that's not to say that I think organizations and communicators and us individually should be not using them, because I think without actually experiencing the technology, you're not going to have a full understanding of how to use it. So I think taking a broader look at this issue, I think thinking about how this could be using it to try to address innovation issues, which is the topic of our next AI inner circle live stream, of course, and making small mistakes is going to be important as well, and making sure that we think about what are the bigger issues and the bigger mistakes that could happen to protect our reputation and the reputation of our organizations.
No, totally. And I think I really like that. We're not going to be an ostrich putting our head in rather than pretend that it won't happen. I think putting in a, a set of guidelines to
Yeah.
let our employees, organizations know how to use it responsibly, how to do responsible experimentation, and using it also as a way to augment human capabilities and empower communities.
Mm.
Be more conscious of. There was this Bloomberg Business Week article which talked about how AI, because it's picking up information on the past, is building in biases about gender and roles.
Yeah.
So really being cognizant of this and using these tools to, oh, this is what is happening, so how can we look at empowering communities so that we go beyond on these thoughts.
Absolutely. Look, I think there is a lot of potential for AI. We can use it, for example, get ChatGPT to analyze your writing and ask ChatGPT if it thinks that your writing is inclusive and how you can actually make it more inclusive. So doing simple things like that, which are really easy, experimenting with those, looking at data, which of course AI is really good at as well. I think there's lots of potential there to really ensure that AI is really good or used for good, I should say. And we had one final question, didn't we, for
Yes.
our viewers and our inner circle? Your preference, human generated content or AI generated content? What's your preference, Sandari?
Oh, I was trying to create some videos for my website using this thing called Lumen 5, which
Yeah.
is AI enabled. And I use Canva a lot. I love the magic recommendations, as they call it, which is AI generated for images based on the topics that you put. But I like to own what I do. I want to be able to think it's almost like how the IKEA effect. Once you have put it together, you feel ownership for it.
Yeah.
So I want to have that ownership of the content that I create. I want to be, able to say that it has this stamp, good, bad, or ugly. It has my stamp on it. I want the assistant, but I want to be the one to create it. And I mean, I absolutely, Jean, we talks about I want good content and don't mind if it's digitally assisted, but I want to know who created it. That back to, I think we talked about artists, we talked about content, and this brings it down to the ownership part of the conversation.
Yeah, absolutely. Some
So
great
that's good.
comments there. Toya was talking about the singularity is becoming a reality. Yes, it is, for better or worse. And as Dr. Russell says, the genie is out of the bottle. It'd be like telling people not to use mobile phones anymore if we told students or asked people not to use AI. Well, look, we're out of time, and as we predicted, we didn't need AI to predict this, but this is so much to cram into 30 minutes. Look, thank you so much to our inner circle. They've provided lots of great comments. We haven't been able to include them all on the screen, or make or comment on them as they've gone up. But there's just been so much content. But have a look at LinkedIn, continue the conversation there, and please continue the conversations with your clients, with your organizations. As professional communicators, as those of us in the arts, we're great at conversations, we're great at asking questions. So I think we should be out there leading these conversations to make sure that AI is used responsibly. Any final
Absolutely. Be
comments,
part of,
Sandari?
yeah. Yeah. Be part of the conversation, be part of the change, be part of the co creation process, and bring your thoughts to life. All of us are going to see that impact in our lives. Let's make it count. Let's make it meaningful for us.
Yeah,
Join us
absolutely.
again. Yeah. And I
Yeah,
think,
so next week, Thursday the 20th, we're going to be talking about innovation, productivity, and jobs. Are we all going to be out of jobs thanks to AI? Or are we going to be, these cyborgs that are using AI to do what we do even better? Let's hope that that's the future. Thank you, everyone, for joining us. A big thank you to our inner circle today, Bonnie, Jacinta, Jeff, Toya, Genevieve. I don't think Rimjin joined us, but thanks for has had some input into the content. So big thank you to those. Reach out to Soundari and I if we can help you on any of these issues. We're very easy to find on LinkedIn. Until next week, that's it from us at an Inner Circle. Thanks very much, everyone. Bye-bye.
Thank you so much. This was really enjoyable, and I look forward to catching up on the recap as well.
Bye-bye, everyone.
Bye.